In the big, sunny forest lived a little squirrel named Pip. One morning, while scampering through the leaves, he found it. The biggest, most perfect acorn he had ever seen. "Wow!" he chirped. "This is all for me!" Pip tried to lift the giant acorn. He pushed and he pulled, he wiggled and he wobbled. It was so heavy. "Ugh, grunt," he puffed, trying to roll it toward his cozy tree-hole home. Not far away, a gentle bear named Poppy sat by a bush. Her berry basket was empty, and her tummy rumbled a sad little rumble. She had looked all morning, but all the best berries were gone. Thump, thump, thump. Pip rolled his giant acorn. He was so busy huffing and puffing that he didn't see Poppy sitting sadly by the path. Suddenly, the acorn picked up speed. It started to roll down a small hill faster and faster. "Oh no!" cried Pip, chasing after it. The runaway acorn rolled right up to Poppy. It bumped gently against her empty basket and stopped. Bump! Pip finally caught up, all out of breath. "My acorn!" he squeaked. He saw it sitting perfectly in Poppy's basket. Poppy didn't try to take the acorn. She just smiled a little smile. "That is the most wonderful acorn in the whole forest," she said softly. Pip looked at his giant acorn. Then he looked at Poppy's empty basket. He heard her tummy give another little rumble. He thought for a moment, and then his little whiskers twitched. He had an idea. "It's too big for just one squirrel," Pip said bravely. "Would you like to share it with me?" After Pip the squirrel and Poppy the bear shared the giant acorn, they became the very best friends in the whole wide forest. Every morning, Pip would scamper down from his cozy hole in the big oak tree and tap, tap, tap on the entrance to Poppy's warm den. And every morning, Poppy would greet him with a big, sleepy bear smile. They spent their days having wonderful adventures. They would play hide and seek among the tall ferns, chase fluttering butterflies through meadows of sunshine yellow flowers, and tell silly stories while lying on their backs, watching the fluffy white clouds drift across the bright blue sky. Pip, being small and quick, would climb the tallest trees to find the juiciest apples for Poppy. And Poppy, being big and strong, would gently push over old logs so Pip could find the crunchiest beetles and grubs underneath. They were the perfect team. The sunny days of summer began to grow shorter, and the warm air started to feel a little bit chilly. The leaves on the trees, which had been so green, began to change. They turned into beautiful colors of fiery red and bright orange and sunshine yellow. One morning, a cool little wind blew through the forest, making the leaves dance and swirl to the ground. Pip shivered a tiny shiver and zipped up his little acorn cap jacket. "Brr!" he chattered. "Poppy, it's getting cold." Poppy nodded, her warm breath making a little cloud in the air. "Winter is on its way, little friend," she said in her deep, gentle voice. Soon the forest will be covered in a soft white blanket of snow, and we will all need to be tucked in our beds for a long, long sleep." Pip looked at his pantry inside the oak tree. He had a good pile of nuts and seeds, but was it enough for a whole long winter? Poppy had been eating lots and lots of berries to get ready for her long sleep, but she knew it was always good to have a little extra. That afternoon, as they sat sharing a honeycomb Poppy had found, Pip remembered something. "Poppy," he said, his mouth a little sticky with honey, "do you remember the story Old Man Badger told us? The one about the Whispering Waterfall?" Poppy's ears perked up. "I do," she rumbled happily. "He said that deep in the forest, past the Giggling stream and through the Sneezing Meadow, there is a secret place, a waterfall that doesn't roar but whispers. And he said that next to the waterfall," Pip continued, his eyes wide with excitement, "grows a very special bush. It only grows honey nuts. He said they taste like sunshine and honey and are the best food to keep you warm and happy all winter long." They looked at each other. Their eyes were sparkling with the same idea. An adventure! A great honey nut adventure! "We should go," they said at the same time, and then they giggled. The next morning, they got ready. Poppy packed a big basket with some juicy pears and a few leftover honeycombs. Pip filled a little bag made from a leaf with his favorite sunflower seeds. They were ready. "Are you ready for an adventure, Pip?" asked Poppy, as Pip climbed onto her big furry back. It was his favorite way to travel. "I'm always ready for an adventure with you," squeaked Pip, holding on tight to Poppy's soft fur. And so they set off into the forest. The air was crisp and smelled like damp earth and sweet fallen leaves. They walked and walked, deeper into the woods than they usually went. Soon they heard a happy bubbling sound. "That must be the Giggling stream," said Pip. They came to a stream of water that was dancing and splashing over smooth gray stones. It wasn't very deep, but it was much too wide for a little squirrel to jump across. Pip looked worried for a moment. "Don't you worry, little friend," said Poppy with a smile. She looked around and saw a long, sturdy log that had fallen near the bank. With a gentle push from her big paws, she rolled the log right across the stream, making a perfect bridge. "There you go, a bridge fit for a king or a very brave squirrel." Pip scampered across the log bridge, his little tail held high. "Hooray!" he cheered from the other side. Poppy stepped carefully through the shallow water and joined him. Their next challenge was the Sneezing Meadow. They walked into a huge field filled with tall, fluffy plants. The tops of the plants were covered in soft, white fluff that looked like dandelion clocks. As they walked, the fluff tickled their noses. Achoo! Pip's nose started to twitch. Achoo! He let out a tiny sneeze that sent a puff of fluff flying into the air. The fluff floated right up to Poppy's big nose. Her nose began to twitch too. Achoo! Poppy let out a giant bear sneeze that was so big it shook the plants all around him, sending a huge cloud of white fluff everywhere. It looked like it was snowing in the middle of autumn. Pip and Poppy couldn't help but laugh. They giggled and sneezed their way all the way through the meadow until they reached the trees on the other side. They had been walking for a long time, and the sun was starting to hang lower in the sky. The path ahead of them split into two, and both paths looked exactly the same. "Oh dear," said Poppy, scratching her head. "Which way do we go now?" Pip looked down one path and then the other. He couldn't remember what Old Man Badger had said. They were a little bit lost, but they weren't scared because they were together. Just then, they heard a soft voice from a tree above them. "Hoo-hoo, are you two adventurers looking for something?" They looked up and saw a wise old owl sitting on a branch. He had big round eyes that looked like glasses, and his feathers were the color of tree bark. "We are," said Pip. "We're looking for the Whispering Waterfall." The owl hooted softly. "Ah, a fine quest indeed. You are very close. You must not look with your eyes, but listen with your ears and smell with your noses. Take the path that smells of sweet, damp moss, and listen for the sound of water singing a sleepy song." Pip and Poppy thanked the wise owl. They closed their eyes for a moment. Poppy took a big sniff. "This way," she said, pointing her nose to the path on the left. "It smells like sleepy green moss." They started down the new path, and as they walked, they listened very carefully. At first, all they could hear was the rustle of leaves, but then they heard it, a very quiet, gentle sound. It wasn't a loud roar like a big waterfall. It sounded like the forest itself was whispering a secret. They followed the sound, their hearts beating with excitement. The whispering grew a little louder, and they saw a shimmering light through the trees. They pushed past a final fern, and then they saw it. It was the most beautiful place they had ever seen. Water trickled gently down a wall of green mossy rocks, sparkling in the afternoon sun. It fell into a perfectly clear pool below without a single splash, only that soft, whispering sound. And right next to the pool was a small twisty bush. On its branches were nuts that glowed with a soft golden light. "The honey nuts," whispered Pip, his voice full of wonder. They crept closer. They could smell a sweet, warm scent, like honey baking in the sun. Poppy gently picked one of the nuts from the bush and gave it to Pip. He cracked it open. Inside, the nut was the color of golden honey. He took a tiny bite. It was the most delicious thing he had ever tasted. It was crunchy and sweet, and it made a warm, happy feeling spread all through his tummy. Poppy tried one too, and her eyes closed with happiness. Working together, they began to gather the nuts. Pip, being light and nimble, climbed into the bush and carefully dropped the glowing nuts down. Poppy, with her big, gentle paws, caught them and placed them carefully in her basket. They made sure to only take what they needed, leaving plenty on the bush for other animals and for new nuts to grow next year. When their basket and leaf bag were full, they sat by the whispering water and ate one more honey nut each. The journey home felt much quicker. They knew the way now. and their hearts were as full as their basket. As they walked, the sun began to set, painting the sky in beautiful shades of sleepy pink and orange. By the time they got back to their homes, the first stars were beginning to twinkle in the sky. They divided the honey nuts. Pip had a big new pile in his pantry, and Poppy had a special stash in her den. They were ready for winter. "Thank you for the best adventure ever, Poppy," yawned Pip. He was very sleepy. "Thank you for being the best friend a bear could ask for," rumbled softly, giving him a gentle nuzzle. Pip scampered up his tree, and Poppy padded into her den. They snuggled into their warm, cozy beds. As they drifted off to sleep, they dreamed of giggling streams, sneezing meadows, and the sweet, magical taste of honey nuts. They knew that even during the long, quiet winter, they would have happy dreams of their adventures together. Good night, little adventurers. Good night.